let's go back a little bit, shall we? Starting off with Sergio Ramos' comments after the Clásico. There's a reason I'm bringing them up. Just reminder, he said, respect is one, it's not imposed. Management of the dressing room is more important than the technical knowledge of a manager. Now, people were putting two and two together, Sid, and were pretty much saying that this was a message to the board that Sergio Ramos did not want Antonio Conte coming in. Is that true? Did he basically say, look, I'm going to veto this?
Absolutely. This is after the 5-1 against Barcelona. This is in the mix zone. He is asked directly about Antonio Conte, and not just directly about Antonio Conte, but about the idea that everybody in Spain has that Antonio Conte was the manager who was going to come in with an iron fist, who was going to impose upon the dressing room, who was going to clear things out, who was going to make everybody respect his authority. And Ramos comes out with that line. There is no doubt it was aimed at Conte. And what's very interesting in this, of course, is the context to this is obviously, first and foremost, the 5-1 defeat to Barcelona. But the other element of it is that the context of this is that Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid president, at a boardroom level, had filtered out that this was going to be Conte. Not it might be Conte, not Conte as a candidate, but it will be Conte. And this was Ramos saying that in a context in which he believed, wow, this is the guy that's coming.
So Ramos has that much power, Sid. I'm thinking back to all the players that Florentino Perez had, including the likes of Raul, Zidane. I don't think I ever recall this sort of situation occurring.
No, not to the extent of this, not quite so public as this. But I think it's worth backing away slightly from the assumption, and obviously it's an entirely natural assumption to make given the course of events. But I think it's worth backing away from the assumption that this. The fact that it didn't come to Real Madrid was purely because Ramos came out and said, we don't want him. I think that's an element in all this, but what we don't really know is why this broke down, and we're getting very contrasting versions of events. And as I say, it wasn't that the media was making this up. This was coming from the club. It's going to be Conte. Now, clearly, it wasn't agreed with Conte at that point. It wasn't done. So maybe there was an element of the board believing, well, we want this guy, therefore it will happen. There seems to have been some negotiating problems with Conte anyway. Conte, of course, continues to have this case with Chelsea hanging over him, although that doesn't necessarily stop him going anywhere. According to elements of Conte's camp, the conversations hadn't reached the point at which there was any kind of agreement anyway. So it's very difficult to get to the bottom of what exactly prevented this from going through. And equally, by the way, as to whether or not we're actually in a position where it definitely still will not.
Right.
But certainly, as you say, the natural conclusion is to say, well, Ramos came out and said this. And the fact that Ramos felt emboldened to say so, I think is really significant. And bear in mind, the other part of the context of all this is that Florentino Perez, as president, really resents player power and is really trying to prevent it. But, of course, you're still then in a position where you think, yeah, but if we take a decision that causes a proper fallout here, maybe the remedy is even worse than the original illness.